The rain outside Oliver Rain's flat was steady, a dull rhythm tapping against the old kitchen window as he stood barefoot, staring at the oddly pristine parcel on his table. He hadn't ordered anything, not recently, but the label was unmistakably addressed to him. Ivory wrapping, thick cotton string, and a wax seal that pressed into the paper like a stamp from another century. It looked expensive. He cut the string slowly, almost ceremonially, then lifted the lid. Inside lay a delicate tin of tea, pale, brushed gold with the words as ever engraved at the center. A handwritten note lay tucked beside it, addressed to O. Rains, with "Gratitude for your voice in the wellness world." There was a QR code printed on fine cardstock and a soft scent of jasmine that felt too perfectly curated. The QR code led to a video, Meghan Everly herself sitting in a garden, explaining how her new blend was harvested under moonlight by generational artisans and carefully curated for modern serenity. Oliver watched it twice, sipping the tea she claimed brought an elegant stillness to the body. It tasted familiar, not bad, just unremarkable. He walked over to his pantry and retrieved a small silver canister from a box labeled Misk Imports, not for review. He remembered it clearly, a white tea order he'd placed a month ago from a Hong Kong wholesaler for a comparative taste test. He opened it, brewed a cup, and took a sip. His eyebrows narrowed. It was nearly identical. He placed both tins side by side under the light and studied the bottom labels. A faint supplier code, just a few digits, caught his eye. He turned back to his laptop, opened the supplier's website, and searched their stock images. There it was, the same tin. Bulk orders available. No celebrity partnerships. Price per unit, £4. Oliver sat down. The warmth of the tea turned sour in his stomach. He didn't write anything just yet. He wanted to be sure. Instead, he sent a message to someone who'd know for certain, his friend Ethan Blythe, a meticulous supply chain analyst who once uncovered counterfeit claims in a top-tier restaurant group. He attached a photo of the tin, added a short message, and clicked send. Then he leaned back in his chair, eyes still on the tea, unsure whether he had just tasted serenity or a scandal brewing in silence. When Ethan Blythe received the photo from Oliver, he was seated at his kitchen counter with 3 monitors flickering in low blue light. His apartment was more archive than living space. Binders of global trade regulations lined the shelves, and spreadsheets were pinned across the wall like abstract art. He recognized the supplier code instantly. It matched a catalog he'd compiled 6 months ago while investigating markups in boutique wellness brands. He minimized his current project and pulled up the export registry for small leaf white tea. The supplier was based in Guangzhou, and Ethan had flagged them previously for their wide use in private labeling. He began comparing the timestamp batch numbers and discovered that a 1,200-unit shipment had left China 3 months ago, bound for a UK holding company under a generic import name, Stillstream Commodities. Then he cross-referenced that name with the UK Business Registry. What he found was a paper trail so thin it barely existed, but the company listed one corporate client, as Ever Wellness Limited. It was enough to confirm the suspicion. The tea Meghan Everly had branded as artisanal and rare was arriving in bulk at wholesale prices, funneled through intermediaries, and sold with luxury margins. Ethan didn't stop there. He placed a direct order to the supplier, posing as a boutique cafe chain in Brighton. 3 days later, a box arrived with 4 tins of the exact tea. The packaging was slightly plainer, but the tin dimensions, weight, and batch code matched perfectly. He brewed a cup and compared it to the one Oliver had mailed him. The taste confirmed what the data had already revealed. Then he turned his focus to the UK side. He dug into shipment manifests at Heathrow and tracked the tea's route to a fulfillment center just outside Maidenhead. It was managed by a third-party logistics company known for rebranding overseas goods. Ethan mapped out the route from supplier to shelf, Guangzhou to Heathrow to Maidenhead, then directly to consumers under the As Ever label. He called Oliver late that night. His voice didn't rise, didn't crack. It rarely did, but the words carried weight. He explained the connections, the logistics, the matching codes, and the missing transparency. Then he opened a shared folder and began uploading screenshots, invoices, and comparison photos. If Oliver wanted to write something, the evidence was already building itself into a story. But as they compiled everything, Ethan noticed something unusual. A sudden server ping from a corporate IP address linked to a reputation management firm. Someone had accessed his LinkedIn profile twice from a hidden browser. He made a note of it and said nothing to Oliver for now. He just closed his tabs, saved the folder, and started drafting a backup report. 1. He always prepared when things stopped being just professional and started becoming personal. By the time Oliver clicked the publish button on his expose, the morning light had just begun to creep through the curtains of his flat. He had revised the article 3 times overnight, trying to strike a balance between fact and tone. He wasn't interested in takedowns, just truth. The piece was titled The Royal Blend or Royal Blunder, and it laid out everything: the supplier trail, the price disparity, the evidence Ethan had compiled, and the questions surrounding authenticity. Then he shut his laptop and waited. The first few hours were quiet. A handful of loyal readers shared the link, some wellness enthusiasts posted thoughtful comments, but by noon, the silence cracked. A TikTok creator with over 2 million followers had stitched together screenshots from Oliver's article and Ethan's white paper. Her video ended with her holding up 2 tins, the original and the As Ever version, and her caption read, "Same tea, £4 versus £59. What are we paying for packaging or a promise?" From that moment, the post exploded. The As Ever Instagram page was flooded with skeptical comments. Influencers who had once praised the tea began quietly deleting their posts. A Reddit thread broke down the shipping manifests Ethan had uncovered, while Twitter users circulated side-by-side packaging photos like forensic evidence. The hashtag #TeaDupes trended in the UK for nearly 12 hours. Some fans of Meghan defended her fiercely, claiming wellness is about experience, not ingredients. Others accused her of preying on vulnerable consumers seeking calm in chaos. Oliver, stunned by the reaction, turned off all app notifications by mid-afternoon. He wasn't used to internet mobs, and the flood of praise and vitriol left him dizzy. His inbox, meanwhile, filled rapidly, journalists requesting interviews, lawyers issuing clarification inquiries, and publicists pretending to want a constructive dialogue. Ethan responded with silence. He watched the storm rise, from the sidelines, tracking IP logs and watching for data breaches. But privately, he had already prepared a follow-up, a 16-page white paper titled Branding versus Substance, When Experience Overshadows Ethics. It went live quietly, hosted on a niche ethics journal site. There was no dramatic title, no emotional language, just evidence. That night, Meghan's legal counsel, Alaric Vane, released an official statement. It didn't mention Oliver or Ethan by name. It described the tea as lovingly assembled, the brand as committed to mindful transparency, and the concerns as misinterpretations of standard sourcing practices. The tone was calm, controlled, unapologetic. But in the warehouse outside Maidenhead, 2 night shift employees received new instructions via email. All tea shipments were to be temporarily suspended. No explanation was given. just a time stop, just a pause. And in that silence, the scandal, once steeped quietly in a cup, had begun to boil over. Months slipped by, and the chaos that once raged across social feeds had dulled into silence. The storm had passed, but its residue clung to certain corners of the internet like damp fog over forgotten fields. Oliver Raines still walked the same streets, still visited the same cafes, but something in the way people greeted him had changed. There was respect now, yes, but also a kind of cautious distance. He had exposed something polished and pretty, and people never quite forget who tips over the teacup. He kept writing, though less frequently. Offers from glossy magazines had arrived with warm language and careful terms. Most of them wanted sanitized. Lifestyle content, curated features, not investigations. He declined most. At night, he would sometimes open the box where he kept both tins of tea. He never brewed them again. They sat like artifacts, one gilded, one plain, both holding the same leaves, both representing two ends of the same deception. Ethan, on the other hand, had found momentum. His quiet paper had been cited in several university ethics courses. A London-based startup focused on transparency in sourcing reached out to him with a long-term contract. He accepted it with his usual calm, packed his shelves into labeled crates, and moved into a new flat where the blinds actually let sunlight in. He rarely brought up the scandal, but when asked, he would shrug and remind people that truth has a shelf life, but patterns don't disappear. As for the As Ever brand, its public transformation was swift. The tea line vanished from the website. Without statement or ceremony, archived links redirected to wellness journals, minimalist skincare, and audio meditations. No mention of leaves. No mention of taste. Meghan Everley herself made no public comment on the pricing scandal. Her team rolled out new marketing campaigns featuring neutral tones and open windows, emphasizing peace, silence, and growth through reflection. But the internet never forgets. Forums still housed archived screenshots. One former warehouse employee posted anonymously about the night everything paused, how shipments were halted mid-shift and boxes were stacked in a locked room with legal hold tags taped across them. Nothing had been thrown away. It had simply been buried. Oliver saw her once more, not in person, but on a live-streamed panel about ethical branding. She wore a cream blouse, spoke with grace, and emphasized the importance of living your truth through products. He watched for a few minutes, then closed the tab without a word. Outside, the wind carried a hint of rain again. He stood by the window, watching the clouds roll in. There was no victory in what he had done, just knowledge, just aftertaste. And in a world full of carefully steeped illusions, that was enough to make him pause every time someone offered him tea.